Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. If you want to move your career forward, advance, and really get on a trajectory to greater success, two things that are impactful. Having somebody walk the journey with you, i.e. a coach, and also your branding. As much as we want to ignore that, some of us says, no, I don't, I'm just going to do my thing here. I don't want to put a spotlight on me. You need to, and you need to send out the right consistent branding messages. We're going to talk about all that today, starting with Margaret, who is an amazing coach. She's had a legal career, segged that over to coaching CEOs, leaders, moving their career forward. By the way, that's Margaret Enloe. And with us today is her branding person. And we're going to talk with Jennifer Mirsky about all of that and how the synergy and all works together. Ladies, welcome. How you doing today?
Great. Thanks.
Great.
Wonderful to be here, Steve. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Good to have you both here. This stuff is the stuff that you don't hear on podcasts. People don't connect the growth of a career and how branding, marketing messages go hand in hand. Now, for you, Margaret, you pivoted from one career to another. You got certified as a coach. I'm sure along the way, there was a point where you said, wait a minute, I need people need to know what I'm doing now. Did you have that moment? And that's how Jennifer came into your life?
The short answer is yes. I was so, as you mentioned earlier, focused on just becoming a coach and understanding what that was all about. But probably a year and a half into that, I said, gee, I've got to get my word out. I've got to expand it beyond the people I already know. And that's where Jennifer came in.
What was the first thing? And before we get to you, Jennifer, because we're going to have you dissect things here for a moment. But Margaret, from your vantage point, what was the first thing that struck you in that I need to change this or I need to up this?
Yeah. The first thing, Steve, was getting a website. I had never, ever had a website, never even needed a website, and I now needed one. Yep. So that was, I was talking to some people about it, but that was my first realization. I need a website. And then LinkedIn came a bit later and has grown as a platform for me where I talk about what I do. So it was the first the website. I remember I was traveling on a train. I said, I got to get a website. I was going to Boston actually to give a speech about coaching and good communication. And I said, well, I need to have this. I need to have a website.
Mm-hmm. So full disclosure, I also do marketing. I have a marketing company, been doing it for 15 years. The website. 15 minutes ago, I was writing copy for a website. Not one of my favorite things to do is a landing page, to be honest with you. That it's so critical that you have that information concise, to the point. The flow has got to be there. That's where you come in, Jennifer. So you took care of things for Margaret, right?
Absolutely. And I'm going to say something very granular, but it's actually very important, which is one of the things we debated is Margaret is an incredible coach and as such moves people forward. And so she really wanted her website URL to be moving you forward or Enloe moving forward. And I really discouraged that because I just said, people are overwhelmed by information. They're not going to remember the preposition. Are we moving forward or up or back? Your name is Margaret Enloe. You are who you're selling. MargaretEnloe.com. Easy to remember, really optimized for search engines as well. They're going to say, oh, MargaretEnloe.com. That probably is a really good search result for Margaret Enloe.
Big win there. By the way,
exactly.
Kudos, congratulations on locking down the URL.
We locked it down. Exactly.
Some dude in California has Steve Harper, does nothing with it. Drives me crazy.
Oh, that's maddening. I do think whoever has my name must hate me because having gone to grad school for multimedia, as they called it in the 90s, I have pretty much locked up Jennifer Mirsky everywhere. So whoever has my name must just detest me because it's gone.
You can always search for anybody watching this wants their name. just keep tabs on it, because sometimes people don't renew. And again, the guy that's using my name on a website, he just put, it's a blog, and it ports over from other blogs, and it's basically, I went for a walk today. It's nothing going on there.
Scintillating.
Aggravating.
Right. And I could probably make an offer, and I've done that for others on their behalf, but yeah,
Right.
it's substantial. So when it came to writing, now we locked down the URL,
Exactly.
and she is the star. She is the face of the company. So I 100% agree with you. And so many of us are, we like to think we don't have egos. We don't want to, no, I'll just give it a name. No, give it your name. If you can, give it your name. So fantastic. Copy for the website you needed to write. What was your approach to that, Jen?
Sure. So what I like to do, because so I call my company, well, an offshoot of my company, I call it Pitch Perfect Content, because be unmistakably you. So I don't want it to sound like me. I want it to sound like my client. And so my process is to interview my client and take copious notes, or let AI help me take notes, and really get a sense of her voice. And, it really needs to sound like her voice and her tone. And Margaret is a great writer. I mean, she was a lawyer, but people have the attention spans of gnats. So really taking the copy that was the base and really condensing it down, down, down. And also, in the words of my colleague, Marty Katz, just always keeping our eyes on the prize. What is the problem you solve, and for whom? And just keeping that front and center. So when someone gets to her website homepage, great photograph by Brett Deutsch of Deutsch Photography, which really just captures her essence.
Mhm.
Incredible visual logo by Wayne Wolf of Blue Cup Design, but then just hitting people over the head. What does she help people do? She helps people get unstuck and move forward.
Well, interestingly, in the logo, there is a feeling of motion, and it is moving
100%.
forward. Yeah. So
100%. And
it's
that's not a coincidence.
no, but it
That's
blended.
Wayne's magic. Yeah.
Yeah. So where Margaret, you wanted to initially focus on the name of your practice, then Jennifer advised you, no, go with your name. It still is there, and it's
Correct.
you
Yeah.
do have that motion feel.
Can I show the logo for a second? Just to show people what that looks like?
Sure,
Okay.
please.
Sure. So exactly to your point, I mean, how brilliant is this logo? Because you have the M for Margaret, the E for Enloe, moving you forward is the tagline, but then the E, to your point, has a sense of motion.
Mhm.
Just makes it even stronger. And then one of the things I emphasize is displaying that consistent branding across all media. So on her website, on her videos, on her social media.
Yep.
So that just gives you a sense of that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I don't know if this was intentional, but blue is known as a trust color. And, the orange is vibrant, like it's on my wall. But the two work very well together.
Complementary colors.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, Wayne definitely cares about color theory, and he likes the color blue for his own branding. So a different shade of blue, but nonetheless blue. So
Gotcha. So now that we've identified the website, the URL, we have the logo, what were some of the next steps in branding Margaret?
Right. So, LinkedIn is just a natural for her. She's a professional person. She's offering professional services to people who either want to become better leaders or have better communication skills, transition in their career, figure out what on earth to do after retirement. So LinkedIn, people are receptive on that platform to what she has to say. So it was just a really natural place. And again, I can share my screen and just show you some of what we did
Sure.
together on LinkedIn, just because I think showing versus telling is more compelling. So this is her website, by the way, with that wonderful photograph by Brett Deutsch. And again, the value proposition. This is actually, we integrated these podcasts into her website. So always keeping it current. And this is, really strong branding again that Wayne did, showcasing her logo. So this is her LinkedIn profile. And then I'm a really big proponent of featuring great video clips, or other visual content on her featured section of her LinkedIn. And then this is an actual video clip. So she was interviewed for 10 minutes by Jay Zimner for a business presentation. And so I watched it and clipped out, here are discrete clips that would be compelling content, because again, people don't want to watch a long video. And so I helped her with the language of how to set up this video, and then also like a content calendar concept of, okay, you said something really profound about your father. The bit about women would be great to trot out in March for Women's History Month. And then the longer clip about your father would be great around Father's Day in June. And then just like the mind-numbing granularity of, when we're uploading this to LinkedIn, are we adding a thumbnail so that someone doesn't see a black screen when they first arrive? Are we checking that box to say, no, don't do the auto captions, give me a chance to review it first? Because AI is terrific, but it only takes you so far, and it definitely doesn't spell people's names correctly. So, really working with her, and then just to make sure that the captions on the screen are not overwhelming, and that we break it up in a way that really makes sense.
Sure.
And then also just that whole concept that I'm always a big proponent of, which is, create once, publish more than once. So creating a really buttoned up YouTube channel for her with a clean custom URL, which you didn't used to be able to do until you had like 100 followers and whatnot. But at Margaret Enloe is her handle, and then really nice branding as usual. And then you can really create a nice looking homepage for yourself where you organize it with playlists. So coaching services playlist, client stories, talks, and it just makes it really easy for someone coming to her channel to see what she's about and to look buttoned up and professional. So.
Margaret, when this started rolling out, if you will, what were your initial thoughts?
You mean what I was doing with Jennifer and all that she was creating for me?
Yeah, going from your business beginning to the realization of, I need to do some branding. And then, fast forward over to here where it's all happening. We have videos, we have the logo, we have the website, we have YouTube channel, all of that. What was your feeling when you looked at that? I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, it is a little bit of whoa. And yet, because I've known Jennifer for a number of years, we've been able to create what you've just seen over a period of time. So it hasn't felt overwhelming, and it's nice to see it. And when I have questions, I'll send Jennifer a text or email and say, Jennifer, I need half an hour of your time or hour of your time to do X and Y. And so it's been nice to see how it's all developed. But Jennifer knows how to put these videos together in, let's say, for YouTube, to get that screenshot, to do the language so that somebody's watching my video on LinkedIn, they're seeing text that makes sense. I mean, it's what I'm saying, but it's text that's curated a little bit so that a person reading it can really catch exactly what I'm talking about. So Jennifer just knows a lot of details that have been super helpful to me. And yes, it's fun to see it come together over time.
Sure. I think it's interesting too. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, I was just going to say something that I think, people don't realize is Google owns YouTube. So it's a no-brainer to be posting your video content, albeit longer form content is better, on YouTube, but then not just posting it, but when you post it, does it have a good title? Does it have a good description? Are there good keywords? Is your video description linking back to your website to drive traffic? All of these are, they're not sexy, but they're important, right? Because it's all about, exposing people to your brand and generating awareness and ultimately sales leads.
You mentioned AI, Jennifer, a couple of moments ago. What are your thoughts?
So they're ever evolving. My knee-jerk reaction is to think of it as, oh no, it's a competitor. It's going to put me and every writer out of business. But I always like to keep an open mind. And I actually just gave a talk, Can a Robot Tell a Great Story? And, it's very useful for certain things. I have something called the Fathom note taker or whatever it is. It takes notes and gives me a video output after a Zoom call. It's just nice to have that crutch. It's amazing for a video transcript just to generate that, even if it's imperfect, it gets you so far. And it was actually fascinating when I gave my talk. I decided to be very transparent about it and say, okay, I want to give a talk on content strategy and content creation. What would you name this talk? And it gave me a name. And it was brownie points for alliteration, crafting compelling content, but I think less voicey than can a robot tell a great story. And then I had it give me an outline, and then I asked it, like, why are you better than a human being? And it gave me really good answers, like, I'm really good at processing a lot of information, and, I can scan things quickly, and et cetera. And then I said, well, why is a human being better than you are? And it said, it has more emotional capacity, and it can be more empathic. And, so it was just fascinating to see what and I call it, came up with. And, I think that the short answer is, I think it's yet another tool,
Right.
our toolkit, and it's not a replacement, and you have to be very careful. I mean, one example that I think my rabbi of all things shared was, you ask it to cite legal cases, and it gave like Seinfeld versus The Simpsons. So you really, you need to vet what it comes
Yeah.
up with. A really interesting story that my rabbi had shared that I included in my talk, which I just thought was absolutely fascinating, was try to tell it very quickly. A grandfather sitting by the bedside of his dying wife. They've been married 60 years. He wants to find the words to tell her how much he loves her. He can't do it. And his granddaughter happens to work in AI, and she interviews him, and she takes those inputs and she puts it into ChatGPT or something like that. And it spits out a poem that he says everything that he wanted to say. And he reads it line by line to his dying wife. So this to me is extraordinary, but he couldn't have done it without AI. But at the end of the day, AI could not have done it without him,
100%.
because without those heartfelt examples, AI wouldn't have had a clue what to say to the dying wife. So that to me was really an exceptional example of the marriage of, and they're teaching courses now, like how to prompt AI to get the best results. So it really is a joint effort. Just like Margaret and I work together, I feel like human beings can work together with AI, but I wouldn't want to see, my biggest concern with AI at this moment, aside from the fact that it might kill us at one point and make us obsolete, that notwithstanding, would be if everyone uses ChatGPT, we're all going to sound like each other. Like, my whole thing is you should sound like yourself, and you should stand out from the crowd. And if everyone is using the same tool verbatim and not tweaking it, we're all going to sound exactly the same.
Sure. And include lots of fluffy, unneeded words.
Hyperbolic. Everything will be unleashed. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a one, you said it best, one word tool. It's a wonderful tool. And especially if you got maybe a creative block and you just need, to start the engine, throw it to GPT, see what comes up, and then move yourself forward from there. Take a couple of lines here and there. Maybe, I didn't think of that word. Oh, all right, thank you. Short of that, it's not human, and it's not going to give you the emotion and everything else that needs to be there.
Absolutely. It doesn't have the lived experience.
So,
one of the things, oh, sorry, Steve. I was just going to say, one of the things I definitely enjoy doing is thinking about creating something out of my own words and see what comes out of that. And I do that all the time on my LinkedIn posts. I don't do too much on Facebook. And yeah, maybe they could be improved with AI and ChatGPT, but I so far have been pretty much just using my own creativity, and on the larger things or even smaller things, connecting with Jennifer to get her advice on things. that could change, but that's how I'm using it. I'm not so much using it right now for my little posts,
Sure.
which I'm happy about.
I think
And
most people can
Margaret's
spot it.
very humble. Sorry, Margaret's very humble, but she has a really nice LinkedIn presence and a lot of connections, and people always respond to her posts. And I don't think that's coincidental. It's because she's her. She's very authentic. She's very professional, and she's adding value. You know, she's really making us think about the questions or the issues that she solves, you know, for her clients. So
I'm a firm believer in energy and the energy you put out there. Not the energy that you put into a project, but you putting your energy imprint on it, and the authentic portion of the content from you, Margaret, with some help from Jennifer and all of that. It resonates. And that's why people respond in the way they do. So we're talking about branding here. In the next few minutes, what's next? What should be done? Now, we talked about LinkedIn, YouTube presence, of course, the website, logo, overall vibe in terms of somebody's brand identity. What haven't we talked about? What's on your radar? Thoughts there?
Steve, I have a hard time answering that because I'm not sure what the next thing is. I know I always like to create new video content. And when I go out for a walk in New York City, I'm always looking for ideas, but that's not really addressing what you're talking about. So Jennifer, you might have a better idea on that one.
well, I have at least one idea, which is that Margaret is a great speaker, and she does a lot of speaking engagements. And so what I would like to see would be for those to be recorded and then have her work with a filmmaker, and ideally myself as well, to put together a sizzle reel of her speaking engagements. Just because, again, sure, you could write to someone and say, I would like to speak in front of a room full of lawyers, or, whatever it is, a room full of professionals. And here are the topics that I have spoken about, but there's nothing like showing a short, with something I did for someone named Debbie Epstein Henry. And, I mean, it just was great. It's like 2.5 minutes. It's a reel, and it shows the variety of things that you talk about, and setups, some more intimate, some larger groups. And then that's another great asset, really, to showcase your brand and what you're all about.
Great idea.
So that's one of the things
I
think
see
is-
that video in my mind, and I see Margaret, you speaking, and whatever the topic is, another shot of you just talking about what you talked about and where it came from, sort of like a behind the curtain look. You're not even
Yes.
looking at the camera, you're staring off into the distance, just saying, well, I came up, my dad inspired me when I was younger. He's the one that, told me about popsicle sticks or whatever it is. And then that's where the talk came from. So kind of like the background behind it. And that just, I think, would foster the authentic side of you. But again, quick. It's got to be quickly edited.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea, Jennifer.
And in an ideal world, like, it would really show, Margaret's very humble, but she's like an amazing facilitator. So, in an ideal world, I would love to see Margaret one-on-one with someone, then Margaret leading an emotional intelligence workshop with, 6 people on it, then Margaret talking in front of a room of 100 lawyers. She does all of those well, and has the skill set to facilitate and inspire, but not make it ever about her. It's always about who she's helping or who she's talking to. So, so
Yeah,
that would
love
be
it.
something really
You see
exciting.
why I like Jennifer, right, Steve?
Well, and I mean it genuinely. I'm not like trying to stroke your ego. I mean, I took part in her emotional intelligence 6-week course, and it's the kind of thing that, quite frankly, I'm not necessarily that open to, but I knew that under her tutelage, she would just sort of bring it down to earth and keep it really practical and doable and not be too woo-woo. All of the above.
I'm not woo-woo, Steve. I'm not woo-woo. But just to clarify, it was actually, Steve, something around positive intelligence.
I'm sorry. I wondered.
Which includes, it's okay. It's okay, Jennifer. It includes concepts of emotional intelligence, but just as I say, for the record,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Right. I'm saying it because I believe it, Margaret. You could do all of this, anything. You could do what you want to do. I never make a suggestion, hey, do a video and then do this, unless I already saw it in my head. It's already played in my head and then it's done. It's like,
done, right?
yeah, just go out and shoot it. You just got to get it done.
Oh, do it. Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah. But fascinating talking and really peeling back the layers on the branding aspect, because coaching is one thing and you can move somebody forward in many different ways. But eventually, I think there's going to be a stop unless you get over the speed bump of branding and making yourself different than others and getting that word out there, the language, the consistency. Margaret, on the coaching side, how do we find you? What is your website? Spell it, please.
My website, Steve, is margaretenloe.com. And you can find me also on LinkedIn just by typing in my name, Margaret Enloe. There actually is another Margaret Enloe on LinkedIn, but I'm the only coach, Margaret Enloe.
Gotcha. And that's Enloe. Jennifer, can we give out your contact info as well?
Sure, absolutely. So I am MerskyDigital.com, but no one can spell that. So you can also find me at my newest website, which is pitchperfectcontent.com. So it's a mouthful, but pitchperfectcontent.com.
I ask of only one favor of both of you.
Sure.
Don't go to my LinkedIn page.
Really?
Because it's been so long since I've even posted. Man, I think I did a post in like 2 years. I've been so busy, COVID, and then I kind of put it to the side. So it's time for this has been my inspiration to get back into it. The LinkedIn game. Yeah.
We can talk amongst ourselves about that after.
Absolutely. You know what it is? I'm like the carpenter that when you go in his house, the crown molding's hanging off the ceiling, but everybody else's is fine. Thank you so much for today and all the insight. Looking forward next time we get together.
Fantastic. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.